Mike Ralston joins us now from Blencowe Resources. Mike, tell us a little bit about Blencowe before we get into the big news that's been announced this morning.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. Blencowe Resources owns 100% of the Orom-Cross graphite project located in Uganda, East Africa. It's a world-class deposit, estimated 2 to 3 billion tons, near to surface, low mining costs, tremendous value in terms of the purity of the product and what we're going to be able to sell. So it's a fantastic project that we're developing. We've owned it for approximately 5 years. We've gone through pre-feasibility. We're now in the definitive feasibility study stage, and we've got a lot of work going on at the moment. So, yeah, that's about all I can say for now, but there's quite a lot going on around that feasibility study in terms of the news flow.
So you mentioned the definitive feasibility study. That's a big aspect of the fundraising, which you've announced today. It's going to support the DFS. Tell us a little bit about the fundraising and how investors are going to be able to be involved.
So as the market knows, because we've been quite clear about this, we've got a feasibility study that's going to cost about $12 million US. And most of the big ticket items in that was always going to be getting pre-qualified so that we can get offtake contracts. And for that, we had to go through first a 100-ton program and then a 600-ton bulk sample test program in China. And we've done all of that. That work is completed. And then the final big ticket item in that DFS is the drilling program. And that drilling program is really all about trying to extend our JORC resource. And we're hoping that we can double it from 25 million tons to 50. And that's the outstanding big ticket item that needs to be completed in order to deliver the DFS. The market's well aware that we picked up a $5 million US grant from the US government last year from the Development Finance Corporation, and that's paid for a significant portion of our feasibility study. And as you can tell, being a grant, it's for free, and so we've had zero dilution in that regard. Now, of course, we have to pay our way, and we have to complete the study, which requires a capital raise. No one likes a capital raise. I guess the market never reacts well to it. But the reality is that we're raising money to add value. All the work that we're doing in terms of, as I say, drilling to significantly increase our resources and all the other feasibility work that's going on is all for one reason, and that is to showcase this project, to add value. And so we've gone out to the market. We've raised another £1.5 million today. And there's probably a little bit more that will come because we've offered a book build to our existing shareholders just to allow them to participate. We think that's only fair. But that combined with the DFC funding, the grant funding, combined with the fact that we went out to our major service providers and got them to take a whole bunch of fees in shares, all contributes towards us getting this feasibility study completed. And that's what we're driving towards as quickly as we can. So, you know, the end of the day, fundraising is a necessary part of that. We've got to raise money to continue the work that we're doing, but make no mistake that we make sure that we do it all as well as we possibly can and make sure that it's delivered in a way that nobody can feel that we're not delivering on what we're trying to do and certainly utilizing that cash in the best possible way.
So would you be able to lay out something of a timetable for our audience in regard to the plans for the DFS, how it's going to proceed and what the milestones will be?
Excuse me. The DFS, we were hoping to complete by the end of this calendar year. And what's changed most significantly within that time frame was that about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago, we announced to the market that we've taken on board a strategy that involves downstream processing. All the biggest returns and cash in this particular space that we operate are in the downstream processing. That is taking a concentrate and further processing or beneficiating it into a 99.95% purified graphite. Typically, that's done in China. Almost all of that purification is done there. But we've got the opportunity to do it in Uganda. We've got a joint venture partner who's a very experienced SPG producer that's going to come and do it with us. Now, that particular downstream processing is going to add significant value into this feasibility study. And obviously, we need to incorporate that downstream processing into our overall feasibility study. We're only signing the joint venture with them as we speak, because this partnership has taken a good 12 months to build and to get to this point. But we have something which is unique, which is incredibly value adding, and ultimately is going to make this project what it can and will be. So, we have to incorporate this in. It means that our feasibility study is going to take another 6 months as we complete this downstream processing option, and the feasibility study obviously that goes with that strategy. And that becomes our off-taker for about 50% of our end product from Orom-Cross. So it's incredibly important that we do it and we do it properly. And as I said earlier, it gets us into the space in terms of downstream where most of the returns are made in this market. So there's huge upside for us in terms of what we're doing. So I guess all I'm asking is the market needs to be a little bit patient, because we have to incorporate this additional element into our DFS. And at the same time, in parallel, we'll be completing the drilling program that I talked about earlier with regards to that JORC resource upgrade and extending it, because that's also going to add a lot of value into our feasibility study. So round about middle of next year, all things being equal, we would hope to have that DFS completed. And that will not only showcase the mine that we were originally talking about doing, that we did the pre-feasibility study on, we'll also be incorporating the downstream processing as well.
So you mentioned the drilling program. Are there any specific news flow items that investors should be looking out for in the next few months?
Absolutely. Yes, the drilling program is one of them. Obviously, as we commence and as we drill and as we get results, we'll be showcasing that to the market. And I'm very confident that we're going to have some very positive news on that, because at the end of the day, this is a very stable deposit. We know where it is, and we can obviously go and drill it out and get some more tons coming in there. So that's important. We are in the point where we've got to the point in our feasibility study where we have purified product and we've completed that qualification process. So we are in negotiations and discussions with various OEMs with regards to offtake. So there will be various different offtake discussions leading to MOUs, leading to agreements that will start to flow through as well. We've got some very good feedback from everybody that's doing work on our product at the moment, which is good. I've got a couple of other strategic initiatives that we've mentioned before that are going to come through, and we're going to be able to announce to the market as well, which all add value. And ultimately, we've got a lot of work going on in terms of the feasibility study itself, which we'll be able to put out to the market also. So there's news flow everywhere. We've definitely got something that's unique that other graphite peers haven't been able to replicate and won't easily be able to replicate. So we've just got to continue to do our job. We've just got to make everybody realize that the ultimate goal is to deliver a world-class DFS that we can then take and get funded and ultimately bring into production. And that's what our game is. And obviously, that's what I've got to work our team towards delivering.
And finally, Mike, from your vantage point, how does the graphite market look?
The graphite market is challenging. I think it's very challenging in the sense that it's something that requires one-on-one relationships with the parties that you're going to sell product to, which means that you've got to go through this whole pre-qualification process, and you've got to work through to get to the point where you can get offtake agreements. So it's not easy, but we've managed to work our way through all of that. We've got ourselves to a position where we've got various tier one OEMs looking at our product, and I think we're going to get some very, very good net results from that. So I believe that we could be one of the only graphite mines that gets into production, which is going to make us sit in a very strong position if this demand for graphite starts to accelerate as the global energy transition gathers pace. And I also think that as we've incorporated this downstream processing strategy on top of merely producing a concentrate like everybody else wants to do, that adds another very, very significant notch to our belt that we can obviously add more value, add differentiation, and ultimately we've got funding partners in place through the DFC and other parties that can help fund it all as we go forward. And I didn't actually mention that in terms of news flow. Obviously, there's going to be funding discussions going on in the meantime as well. So yeah, there's a graphite market for sure. There's demand growing, and there's a lack of supply. And if we can be one of the few parties that's in production in the next couple of years, taking advantage of that imbalance, then there's value. And we think that we're going to be one of those. And we obviously got to make sure that we complete this feasibility study so that we can get funded and move into production as quickly as possible.
Well, we'll be watching with great interest, Mike. Thanks for joining us and taking us through all that.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.